Page 51, the Irish Washerwoman. Top of the page, they are introducing the triplet, as if counting wasn't tricky enough. Now we got a different kind of counting, different kind of rhythm. A lot of people who are not accustomed to triplets get these wrong almost every time. Piano players tend to get them right, mainly because piano players have them so much, I think. If you play even eighth notes, there's 2 notes to a beat. Now this is in 2/4 time. A quarter note gets a count, so 2 eighth notes would get 1 count, right? You go 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Well, with triplet eighth notes, now you got to squeeze 3 notes in that space instead of 2. So we count it. There's different ways of counting it. I count it 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and I think the book does too. That's fine. Some people, you can say the word triplet. Triplet, triplet, triplet. The important thing is they got to be rhythmically even. So to show you in the right hand at the beginning of this where the eighth note triplets start, it's 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 type thing. Or you can go triplet. Triplet, triplet, triplet. It's a little messy, but okay. Yes. And you just gradually speed it up and you'll feel the triplets. Now this piece, I question introducing triplets with this piece because this piece is a fast piece. It's a happy, they say briskly. I don't know the difference between brisk and bright and all that. It's a mood, not a tempo. But this is a fast piece, and it's not exactly a beginner level piece, or a level 2 in this case. So in my opinion, they could have picked a little better piece. So we're going to take this really, really slow, but if you hear recordings of it, it moves. But don't try to play it that fast. That's silly. Slow it down to where you can play it. Now, as far as the fingering goes in the right hand, oh, good luck. Look at the fingering here. You're starting out with 5th finger for the quarter notes. And then it's 3 and 2. And then a 1. So you just keep your hand here. Then you have the 4th finger when you need it for the C. And this is the fingering you start with. Then in the 2nd full measure there, or I could say the 3rd measure from the end of the 1st line, then bring your thumb up to play the G. Now, you see a little 3 underneath the triplet there? That gets confusing because you think, well, that must be a finger number. No, it's not. Triplets typically will have a little 3. They're in groups of 3. They're barred. The beams are in groups of 3, and a lot of times they'll have a little 3. And that's what they've done here. That's what that little 3 is for. So if we take the last 3 measures of the 1st line, we are here. And then the next measure is 4-2. And stay in this position as best you can. Just stay there. Now you got to come up. Now, 1st measure, 2nd line. Look at the fingering. 2, 1. I disagree because we want this position. And if I put a 33 here, I'm out of position. So I'm recommending that you finger this 1st measure, the 2nd line, 2, 1, 2, because that puts you in this position. That's where you want to be. In the 1st line, 2 was playing the G, and that's what we want. So that puts you in there. That may be what they meant and they have an error, I'm not sure. But 3rd line down, we are now here. Instead of this that we've had before, now we're crunching it down to here because we don't need the high note anymore. This is more comfortable, so we're here. There's an F sharp in this. You see the sharp in the key signature? This is in key of G major, so it's F sharp. last line, let's look at this. You have a 1-3, and then a 1-4, and then a 1-5, and then a 1-5-1. That takes some practice because you got to keep the tempo going. Like so. So keep this slow and steady, and you can, if you have a metronome, it's handy because you can just gradually speed it up with the metronome as you can play it. But don't speed it up with the metronome until you can play it note perfect. No wrong notes, no hesitations, no glitches, no nothing. Keep it slow. The left hand just has these chords. They're saying at the beginning you have a D chord. Okay, you have no. And now they're saying 3-1 for the GB. I disagree. I think a 2-1 is better. I recommend a 2-1, and then for the D, the next chord, the DB is a 5-1. And then each time you have this GB, I would use a 2-1. And then throughout. And that's really about all the left hand's doing. You have some 3-note chords in the last line, but those shouldn't be a problem, I'm hoping. I could offer some other fingerings for you, but this fingering works, so we'll just leave it at that. Look at the last line, last measure. Above the staff, there is a DS al fine. You just had DC al fine in a previous video. The DC means go back to the beginning. DS al fine means go to the sign, S for sign, and then go to fine. So where's the sign? Glad you asked, I'll tell you. The sign in this piece is the first line. It's right there after the 2 quarter notes. Above the staff there's a double bar there, and that's that squiggly do thing. That's the sign. So when you get down to the bottom, you go back to that sign, not the beginning. And you continue playing. Fine is at the end of the second line. Now there is one gotcha in this piece I need to point out. When you look at all these eighth notes and you're thinking, okay, they're all triplets. Well, they're not all triplets. When I played through this a few times, I kept getting me. I said, what are you doing? There's a mistake in the music. And then I realized it's not a triplet. Take a look at the second line, last measure. You have triplets for the first beat, but they're not triplets for the second beat. It's just a 2 and. So it's a 1 and a 2 and. Ugh. So be aware of that. We're going to go 1 and a 2 and then keep going with the triplets again. And that's kind of tricky. I don't know why they would do that to you, but they did, so there you are. I can't help it. Now they're doing a few things that I just flat disagree with. They're getting into advanced concepts here, and I'm sorry, but you're not ready for advanced concepts right now. Take a look at the third line down. The left hand, it's changed. They're not quarter notes anymore. They're an eighth note and an eighth rest, which means it's not triplets. It's just regular 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Well, you got triplets in the other hand, so now you've got a 1 and 2 and. At the same time, you're trying to do a 1 and a 2 and a. It's like 2 against 3, right? No, don't even try that. That's silly. Just play the eighth note in the left hand like a eighth note triplet, and then put in an extra eighth rest by each. So it's like 1 rest, 2 rest. So just play the chord in the left hand with the first eighth note in the right hand and leave it at that. Then in the last line, another thing that we have to worry about, they don't warn you, is the hands get in each other's way. Both hands want the same note at the same time, and you can't do that. We don't play a note with 2 fingers at the same time. So in the right hand you're going down it. This is the last line at the beginning. Well, in the second measure, the C and the B are needed in the left hand. That's a chord. gets in the way. So what we do is we figure out which hand is going to play it. And in this case, the left hand needs to play it because the left hand is playing a quarter note. And once it's played, it's going to hold it down for the full beat. Well, the right hand only needs it for that 1/8 note triplet thing. So it's here. So in the first measure, we're fine. Now in the second measure is where the problem is. We're going to have the left hand play the C because it's part of the chord. The right hand's going to rest here. And it comes in handy because now we don't have to put a fifth finger on G. And since coming up later we're going to want second finger on A, then I can go ahead and use thumb on G. From that, in the second measure, all those G's, I can do the thumb. So in the second measure, it's here. Comes in handy. So to demonstrate the first two line, or the first two measures of the last line, slowly, it's here. And that's what I'm recommending you do. Now, if you can, try it. If you can't, don't worry about it. But we like to bring out the melody. The melody's in the right hand. It's all these triplets. Well, when you get down to the bottom of that second measure, when the left hand is playing that note for the right hand, that note, the top note in the chord, it's melody. Can you play that louder than the other notes? If not, don't worry about it. Just play it. If you can, just put a little more weight on it when you go down. And the next chord, the B, is melody. So we're hearing, is what we're hearing, and but you know, the melody continues. It just makes the piece a little more difficult. Grr. So let's try this out very, very slowly. I put the metronome on 80. But it is beating 8th note triplets. So it's like, follow the metronome. 1 and 2 and so those are those 8th notes. 1 and I don't know if you can play it that fast or not. You may need to play it on your own for a while and build up to that speed. But if you can, then try with me. One hand at a time if you have to. But let's try it at that speed and see what happens. That means the quarter notes are 3 of these things on the metronome. 1 and 2. I will give you 2 counts since it's in 2/4 time, and we'll play it. Hands, where do they go? Here? Okay. 1 and go and 1 and